Remember when dinner didn't come from a drive-thru but from a casserole dish? Let's dust off the old recipe box and relive 20 forgotten meals every American family in the 1950s ate weekly. The good, the strange, and the ones that came out of a can. Some will make you hungry, some will make you laugh. And a few, you might have sworn you'd never eat again. Tuna noodle casserole. Now here's a classic that practically defined 1950s efficiency. If you had a can of tuna, a can of cream of mushroom soup, and a box of elbow macaroni, you had dinner. Bonus points if you crushed up some potato chips or buttered breadcrumbs for the topping. Tuna noodle casserole was a go-to for busy moms and PTA potlucks alike. It came out of the oven bubbling hot, smelled like childhood, and fed the whole family on a dime. Sometimes peas or diced celery made a guest appearance, to make it healthy. People today might wrinkle their noses at the idea, but back then, this was comfort food. Especially in homes where the week's meals were planned around what was in the pantry, not what looked good on Instagram. Cream chipped beef on toast, well, you probably know the nickname, SOS, stuff on a shingle. This dish was born in military mess halls but marched right into 1950s kitchens across America. If you grew up in that era, you probably remember this one vividly. Dried beef from a little glass jar or a vacuum-sealed pack, chopped into strips and stirred into a thick, salty white gravy made with butter, flour, and milk. Poured over toast, sometimes white bread, sometimes biscuits if mom was feeling fancy. It wasn't glamorous, but it was warm, cheap, and filling. Some kids loved it. Others, well, let's just say they remember it. Either way, it showed up on a lot of breakfast tables, especially at the end of the week when the fridge was looking a little sparse. Meatloaf with ketchup glaze. Now this one is practically a national treasure. A 1950s meatloaf was serious business. You had ground beef, maybe mixed with a little pork if things were going well that week, breadcrumbs, onions, eggs, and a splash of milk, all molded into that classic loaf pan and slathered with sweet, tangy ketchup on top. You remember that smell, don't you? It filled the whole house. It meant dinner time, warmth, and leftovers for sandwiches the next day. Kids would fight over the end slice, all caramelized and crunchy. Meatloaf was an every-week meal in most homes, and every family had their own little twist. Some added oats, others swore by Worcestershire sauce. But no matter how you made it, it tasted like home. Jello salad with fruit cocktail or cottage cheese. Here's where things get a little colorful, literally. Jello salad was as much decoration as it was dessert or side dish, depending on who you asked. Lime green, cherry red, orange, it came in every hue imaginable, often molded into shapes that looked like they belonged on a science fiction set. And inside, anything and everything, fruit cocktail, mini marshmallows, shredded carrots, cottage cheese, sometimes even mayonnaise. Yes, really, Google perfection salad if you dare. Back then, Jello wasn't just a fun treat, it was a sign of modernity. Housewives were proud to serve it. It was pretty, it was sweet, and it said, "Look what I can do with a box of powder and a can of pineapple." Chicken alaking. Now this one sounds fancy, doesn't it? Chicken alaking. It has that air of sophistication, but it was really just a clever way to dress up leftovers. Chunks of chicken, usually left over from Sunday dinner or pulled from a can, tossed into a creamy sauce with pimientos, mushrooms, and sometimes peas, ladled over toast, rice, or even biscuits. It was rich, warm, and just the kind of thing you'd see in a Betty Crocker cookbook with a little star next to it. It felt fancy, even though it was frugal. And in a decade where moms were expected to cook 3 meals a day and make them look effortless, dishes like this were a lifesaver. TV dinners, Salisbury steak with peas and mashed potatoes. Oh boy, TV dinners. If anything screams modern miracle in the 1950s, it's these shiny aluminum trays. Just imagine the thrill, popping that frozen meal into the oven, for nearly an hour, mind you, and out came dinner, neatly divided into little compartments like a culinary paint palette. The Salisbury steak version was king. You had that rectangle of mystery meat smothered in brown gravy, a scoop of mashed potatoes, with a little divot of butter substitute, a side of peas that were somehow always both mushy and dry, and for dessert, a brownie baked in the corner that either came out molten lava or petrified wood. But listen, we loved it. You'd sit cross-legged on the shag carpet with your tray table, watching I Love Lucy or Gunsmoke, and it felt like the future had arrived. Dinner without dishes? Mind blown. Spam and eggs. Ah, spam. It may not be the first thing that comes to mind when you think of fine dining, but in the 1950s, it was a pantry staple. And not just for post-war rationing reasons, people genuinely liked it. Fried up in a hot skillet, those crispy edges on a slice of spam paired perfectly with scrambled or fried eggs. It was a quick breakfast, a Sunday night supper, or an emergency dinner when payday was still a few days away. Sure, it came in a can with that mysterious key to open it, and sure, it made a sound like schlorp when it slid out. But spam had staying power. It tasted like stability. Like Dad was working, the bills were paid, and things were going to be okay. Beef Stroganov with cream of mushroom soup. Beef Stroganov came to us from Russia, sort of, but by the 1950s it had been fully Americanized and then Campbell's-ized. Forget the original sour cream and fillet version. In the suburbs, we made it with ground beef, egg noodles, and, you guessed it, cream of mushroom soup. It was one of those dishes that felt a little fancy for a Tuesday night, but was easy enough for Mom to whip up in under 30 minutes. It was hearty, it stretched a pound of meat like magic, and you probably didn't even notice you were eating mushrooms. Also, don't forget the paprika, because if it didn't turn at least kinda orange, it wasn't the real thing. Fried Bologna sandwiches. If you know, you know. This was the poor man's deli sandwich, and it was glorious. You'd slap a thick slice or two of Bologna in a hot pan, watch it sizzle and curl up like a little porky sombrero, and serve it between two slices of white bread, sometimes toasted, sometimes not. Add a smear of yellow mustard, maybe a slice of American cheese if you were living large, and that was lunch, or dinner, or a midnight snack. Fried Bologna was the great equalizer. Whether you were feeding 4 hungry kids or just craving something salty and nostalgic, this sandwich always hit the spot. And you didn't need a recipe, you just needed a frying pan and some gumption. Macaroni and tomatoes. Now this one might raise a few eyebrows today, but back then, this was a whole meal. Not a side dish, not an appetizer, a meal. You'd cook up a pot of elbow macaroni, then dump in a can of stewed tomatoes or tomato juice, maybe toss in a pat of butter and a little salt and pepper. That was it. Cheap, fast, and surprisingly satisfying. It was one of those dishes that showed up when the budget was tight, but the kids still needed full bellies. Some families added ground beef or shredded cheese if they had it, others didn't. Either way, it felt warm and familiar. Simple food for a simpler time. Whether it came from a can or a cast-iron skillet, these dishes were more than dinner. They were family, love, and a little bit of magic. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and share it with someone who still swears by pineapple on ham.